and we can socially distance. I respect anybody's right to wear that mask. I got no problem with that. But you're right. So why can't we be in there? I don't know. Look, they just put out the agenda today, and it's not like they're putting this out a week or two ahead of time so that we have plenty of advance notice. They're keeping this thing pretty much under wraps as close as they can. And the meeting, the virtual meeting, is held on a personal YouTube account, and then as soon as the meeting is over, it is gone, never to be seen again. That's correct. Done. And it's a listen-only function. You don't have the option to ask questions. So there's a problem. I don't have any good answers. And last week, before the governor made these changes, last week it was made public that there's a meeting scheduled here tomorrow night for a fundraiser, and they invited all the public. All the public. So the public can come in here for a fundraising meeting tomorrow night, but they're not allowed in the building right now during a board meeting. Right.
So we need to be back out here tomorrow and turn the fundraiser into tonight's board meeting here.
That's right. I noted that in an online article as well, that they will be meeting here tomorrow at 5:30, if I'm not mistaken. 5:30.
Open to the public.
Open to the public. That's right.
Open to the public. So the question is, why can they have a meeting tomorrow at 5:30, open to the public, but they're going to close us out of the meeting today that is speaking about our children's welfare? Well, that we have a right to be in.
You can be sure that our presence here tonight with these signs and so forth is going to make them uncomfortable, because it's going to put the spotlight on them, and they don't like that. I'm sure that makes them uncomfortable, and that's the whole point. The more you shine the light on them and their adverse agendas and their lack of transparency, the more uncomfortable they're going to get. I'd like some questions answered. I have grandchildren, and I don't want them attending a public school that's going to foster an agenda that's based on political dogma rather than solid, legitimate education. Like I said earlier, I understand that there has been mistakes in our history, errors, things that resulted in gross oppression and so forth. But this country, of all the countries in this world, is the only country that addressed it, that took legal steps to redress those grievances and those problems. And that should be taught in context, but it's not. Instead, they're pushing an agenda that's politically oriented in an effort to diminish and dismantle our cultural context, our social, our political context, and to indoctrinate these kids into an entirely different way of thinking that is not consistent with legitimate education. And this isn't just K through 12, it's in the college and university levels too. Something's wrong here. I don't buy this. I want some answers here. I want public input into those meetings. I want to be able to walk in there and say, where did you get the standards? Who's developing and approving these standards? And what latitude do you have as a county board to adjust or reject those standards as deemed necessary? We didn't elect those people to sit there and be a doormat. If there needs to be some pushback, that's what I want. I want these people to push back. I want them to stand up for legitimate education, because the net result, the end result, is going to be kids leaving the public school system. The charter schools stand to profit and grow by it, and they have, as have the private schools. And oh, by the way, during this entire pandemic, most of them stayed very active and very involved with a consistent curriculum going on day to day. The public schools shut down, and a large percentage of their kids don't even attend the Zoom session. These kids are hurting. I don't know how they expect to pass end of grade tests and move on to the next grade. They got some real problems here. Look. I want to see if he gets escorted out, because there's a deputy sheriff in there. Let's see.
You have 8 yeses, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you very much. At this time, we have no spotlight and recognition of citizens' participation. I yield to you, Ms. Valerie.
Yes, sir. We have received 1 citizen participation, and it reads, "Good evening, board members. I am Dane Smith, a concerned parent and community member. On April 19th, 2021, the Bladen County Board of Education and the Bladen County School Superintendent, along with certain members of his administration, colluded to strip me, my wife, and all the parents of Bladen County School students of our constitutional right to participate in a public in-person meeting. A formal statement was sent as requested to Dr. Beatty on Saturday, April 24th, 2021. I had a phone conference with Dr. Beatty on Monday, the 26th, where she asked questions about the incident and stated that she was investigating accordingly. At the time of this writing, there has been no action. I would like to present two following board policies. Policy 1742-5060, responding to complaints, opportunities to address concerns and complaints. The board is committed to providing an effective means for parents and the community to voice concerns and complaints. The board also strives to resolve concerns and complaints whenever possible. To this end, the board has established the following processes: grievance procedures for addressing concerns regarding specific decisions, especially where there are concerns that board policy or law has been misapplied, misinterpreted, or violated, including discrimination claims on the basis of sex or disability. Policy 1740-4010, student and parent grievance procedure, and 1720-4015-7225, discrimination, harassment, and bullying complaint procedure. Numerous other policies provide opportunities for parental input, including policy 1310-4002, parental involvement. Policy 1740-4010, student and parent grievance procedure, options for resolving complaints. The board strives to resolve concerns and complaints of students and parents whenever possible. To this end, the board has provided opportunities for students and parents to express their concerns through processes established in board policies. Policy 1742-5060, responding to complaints, identifies these different processes, including a mechanism for resolving complaints in an informal manner. While the board encourages resolution of complaints through informal means, it recognizes that at times a formal process may be necessary for certain types of complaints, or if the informal process did not produce satisfactory results. This policy provides a complaint procedure that may be used as described below. Any parent or student who has questions about the options for proceeding with a complaint or concern may contact the principal or superintendent for further information and copies of all applicable board policies. Definitions: days are working days exclusive of Saturdays, Sundays, vacation days, or holidays as set forth in the school calendar. In counting days, the first day will be the first full working day following the receipt of the grievance. After May 1, time limits will consist of all weekdays, Monday through Friday, so that the matter may be resolved before the close of the school term or as soon thereafter as possible. Final administrative decision. Final administrative decision is a decision of a school employee from which no further appeal to a school administrator is available. Grievance. A grievance is a formal complaint regarding specific decisions made by school personnel that alleges that such decisions have adversely affected the person making the complaint. A grievance includes, but is not limited to, circumstances such as when a student or parent believes that board policy or law has been misapplied, misinterpreted, or violated. The term grievance does not include any matter for which the method of review is prescribed by law, for which there is a more specific board policy providing the process for addressing the concern, or upon which the board is without authority to act. Claims of discrimination, harassment, or bullying must be processed under policy 1742-4015-7225, discrimination, harassment, and bullying complaint procedure. Grievance. The grievance is the parent, student, or group of parents or students submitting the grievance. Official. The official is the school system employee hearing and responding to the grievance. Timeliness of process. The number of days indicated at each step of the grievance process should be considered a maximum, and every effort should be made to expedite the process. Failure by the official at any step to communicate a decision within the specified time limit will permit the grievant to appeal the grievance to the next step unless the official has notified the grievant of the delay, the reason for the delay, such as the complexity of the investigation or report. The officials shall make reasonable efforts to keep the grievance apprised of progress being made during any period of delay. Delays that interfere with the exercise of the grievance legal rights are not permitted. The grievance in any step of the process to appeal a grievance to the next step within the specified time limit will be considered acceptance of the decision at the current step unless the grievant has notified the official of a delay and the reason for the delay, and the official has consented in writing to the delay. General requirements. No reprisals of any kind will be taken by the board or by an employee of the school system against any grievant or other student or employee because his or her participation in grievance filed and decided pursuant to this policy. All meetings and hearings conducted pursuant to this policy will be private. The board and school system officials will consider requests to hear grievances from a group of grievants, but the board and officials have the discretion to hear and respond to grievance individually. The grievant may have a representative, including an attorney, at any stage of the grievance. However, if the grievant intends to be represented by legal counsel, he or she must notify the appropriate school official in advance so that school personnel also will have the opportunity to be represented by legal counsel. Process for grievance. Filing a grievance. Whenever a student or parent or guardian believes that he or she has been adversely affected by a decision of a school employee, the student or parent or guardian may file a grievance as provided in this policy. A grievance must be filed as soon as possible, but no later than 30 days after disclosure or discovery of the facts giving rise to the grievance. For a grievance submitted after the 30-day period that claims a violation, misapplication, or misrepresentation of state or federal law, the superintendent or designee shall determine whether the grievance will be investigated after considering factors such as the reason for the delay, the extent of the delay, the effect of the delay on the ability of the school system to investigate and respond to the complaint, and whether the investigation of the complaint is necessary to meet any legal obligations. However, students, parents, and guardians should recognize that delays in filing a grievance may significantly impair the ability of the school system to investigate and respond effectively to such complaints. The student or parent or guardian who has a grievance must provide the following information in writing to the principal: the name of the school system employee or other individual whose decision or action is at issue, the specific decision or action at issue, any board policy, state or federal law, state or federal regulation, or state board of education policy or procedure that the parent or guardian or student believes has been misapplied, misinterpreted, or violated, and the specific resolution desired. If there is not a specific decision or action at issue and no concern that state or federal law has been misapplied, misinterpreted, or violated, then the procedure established in policy 1742-5060 is appropriate, and the principal shall address the concern following that policy. Even if the principal is the employee whose decision or action is at issue, the student must submit the grievance first to the principal in order for the principal to address the issue within the formal process. If, however, the grievance claims that a state or federal law has been misapplied, misinterpreted, or violated, the student may submit the grievance directly to the superintendent or designee. If a student wants to initiate a formal grievance regarding a decision by the superintendent that directly and specifically affects the student, the general process described in this policy will be used, except that the grievance will be submitted to the assistant superintendent of human resources, who shall forward the grievance to the board chairperson. Investigation: the principal shall schedule and hold a meeting with the student and or parent or guardian within 5 school days after the grievance has been filed with the principal. The student may be accompanied by a parent, legal guardian, or other person who is in a position of loco parentis to the student. The principal shall conduct any investigation of the facts necessary before rendering a decision. Response by principal. The principal shall provide a written response to the written grievance within 10 days of the meeting. The response will include the principal's decision regarding resolution of the grievance and the basis for the decision, In responding, the principal may not disclose information about other students or employees that is considered confidential by law. A copy of the grievance and the principal's response will be filed with the superintendent. Response by superintendent. If the grievant is dissatisfied with the principal's decision, the grievant may appeal the decision to the superintendent. The appeal must be made in writing within 5 days of receiving the principal's decision. The superintendent may review the written documents and respond, or the superintendent may schedule and hold a conference with the grievant, principal, and any other individuals the superintendent determines to be appropriate within 5 school days after receiving the appeal. The student may be accompanied by a parent, legal guardian, or other person who is in a position of loco parentis to the parent. The superintendent shall provide a written response within 10 days after receiving the appeal. In responding, the superintendent may not disclose information about other students or employees that is considered confidential by law. Appeal to the board. If the grievant has alleged a violation of a specific federal or state law, federal or state regulation, state board of education policy or procedure, or local board of education policy or procedure, the grievant will have the right to appeal a final administrative decision to the Board of Education. See subsection E.5.8 mandatory appeals below. If a grievant has not alleged such specific violation, he or she may request a board hearing, which the board may grant at its discretion. See subsection E.5.B, discretionary appeals below. Mandatory appeals. If the grievant is dissatisfied with the superintendent's response to his or her grievance and has alleged a violation of a specified federal or state law, federal or state regulation, state board of education policy or procedure, or local board of education policy or procedure, the grievant may appeal the decision to the board within 5 days of receiving the superintendent's response. Hearing will be conducted pursuant to policy 2500, hearings before the board. The board will provide a final written decision within 30 days of receiving the appeal unless further investigation is necessary or the hearing necessitates that more time be taken to respond. Discretionary appeals. If the grievant is dissatisfied with the superintendent's response to his or her grievance that has not alleged a violation of a specified federal or state law, federal or state regulation, state board of education policy or procedure, or local board of education policy or procedure, then within 5 days of receiving the superintendent's response, the grievant may submit to the superintendent a written request for a hearing before the Board of Education. If the full board will be meeting within 2 weeks of the request for a hearing, the board will decide at that time whether to grant a hearing. Otherwise, the board chairperson will appoint a 3-person panel to review the request and determine whether to deny the appeal, review the superintendent's decision on the written record only, or grant a hearing. The panel will report the decision to the board. The board may modify the decision of the panel upon majority vote at a board meeting. If the board denies the appeal, the decision of the superintendent will be final and the grievant will be notified within 5 days of the board's decision. If the board decides to grant a hearing, the hearing will be conducted pursuant to policy 2500. The board will provide a final written decision within 30 days of the decision to grant an appeal, unless further investigation is necessary or the hearing necessitates that more time be taken. Given that our complaint was given directly to the board and superintendent, it would appear that by your policy, we should have received a response within 10 days of receiving our complaint. This has not been done. I would like it duly noted in the minutes of this meeting that the board and superintendent have violated this policy and that we expect a resolution to this complaint immediately. Unfortunately, the more policies and meeting minutes that I read, the more confidence I lose in the ability of this board to lead our students in a fair manner. Bladen County deserves a school system that provides a high-level education to all students, a board that promotes transparency and adheres to its policies. Your policy states in several places, the board strives to, and the board is committed to. In my experiences with the board over the past 12 months and reading the minutes or meeting over the past 3 years. I see no evidence that the board is striving or committed to much of anything other than some sort of closed-door agenda that is failing our children. Thank you for your attention to this matter. Dane Smith.
Thank you very much. Any more citizens participation? At this time, I will, sir.
I would like to chime in on this. I mean, we just went through every bit of policy and stuff like that. And when usually we have, if we have somebody come up and speak, we have a time limit, correct? So if they write a dictionary, we're gonna sit here and read it, correct? About all the laws, policy, this, that, and other. I mean, why, as a board, aren't we allowing public in? I mean, that would be a good question to answer. I mean, we have gymnasiums, we have others, so, I mean, that's kind of weighing on me. Why are we just confined to this area? We have access to multiple buildings, very big areas. I mean, I think we're kind of going in the wrong direction, in my opinion. I mean, I wish we would look at if we need a bigger facility, we have access to it. Let's get the public involved and let's get the children back where they need to be. And I think a lot of this stuff would be a lot more transparent to the community. I feel like we are doing the wrong thing by the community.
Anyone else? At this time, I'll move to 9.01. A, B, C, and D all passed. Thank you very much. At this time, we go to board member concerns.
I would just love to see the community and us open up our meetings if we have to just get to a bigger facility. And that would be my biggest concern.
Any other concerns? My report would be, just remember our students that are doing integrate testing, please remember them in their prayers, our faculty and staff. Turn it over to you.
Thank you, Chairman Carroll, board members. As Mr. Carroll shared, we have EOG testing taking place this week, EOCs next week. So we do want to remember our students and staff as they're working through this. Our last day of school for students is Friday, May 28th. That will be an early release day for them, so just mindful of that. Next month's meeting, I'll be providing an overview of ESSER 2 and ESSER 3. That's the federal funding that's come as a part of COVID. We've just received a check mark date from DPI on that submission, so we'll work through the components of the budget and share that with the board as a whole next week about the different funding areas that those funds can be used for, and share that with the board next week. Rice Security, which was the group that's doing the security assessment, will be presenting at the June board meeting the findings of the safety assessments that need to be done in closed session because it is dealing with school safety. That'll take place next month. As a reminder, graduations will be held on Friday, June 4th, East Bladen at 8 o'clock in the morning, West Bladen at 6:30. Board members will be provided a pass for themselves and a guest to attend. If you would let Mr. Dowell know by this Friday you plan to attend one or both of those graduations. We will soon begin the development of a strategic plan for the district. This is something that we've been needing. This will obviously align as well with the district improvement process, which is a part of NC STAR. Schools also do it now as part of school improvement. It's important to have a strategic plan so that we can talk about our goals, our strategies, how we measure those and hold ourselves accountable, as well as use those in making the decisions that we make each and every day. So we want to begin with that. Obviously, that will involve a lot of stakeholders, so we'll want input not only from the board and staff, but parents, community members, business partners, and others that have a connection to our children's education. So we'll begin that work over the summer and start that development process. As a part of that, I would like to establish advisory committees. One being a parent advisory committee that would have parent input from all schools that would sit with the superintendent and others to talk about our schools and needs that are there, to continue that communication and to expand upon that, because we know that input is very important. And if we have every building represented and have a good, diverse group of parents to join us on that, we think that will provide great value, not only in strategic planning, but in our day-to-day operations as a district. We also like to do the same thing with staff, because we feel like it's important to hear from staff members. Again, all staff members, different positions, representatives from each school, that can serve on advisory committees to the superintendent and staff, as it relates to their role as staff members and their role in educating students. And finally, I'd like to establish one for students, especially as we come back to the fall. I think it's important that we hear from our students, things that go well for them, ideas that they have, that we can better support them in. So establishing those 3 advisory committees to the superintendent for parents, staff, and students. Obviously, we want to engage our community and business partners as we go through this process, because we know they bring great value. And it takes all of us working together as citizens of Bladen County, business partners, community members, civic organizations, churches, and all, to work together, to come together, so that our resources do what's best for children. That's important. As it relates to the social studies curriculum, we know that the state has established new standards that are listed there. I do want to provide the board an update for a moment here concerning those standards. All that has been done at this point, as far as the state, is they have adopted the standards. We do not, beyond the content of the statements of the standards, we do not have the ins and outs, which is considered the unpacking documents, as well as the crosswalk that tells us more about the key terms that would be placed there, the progression. I did find out today, because I've been trying to do this, and I want to make sure we keep the board informed, as well as share this information to the public. And I'll have Ms. Newton share this timeline. It looks like the state board will be taking action on these crosswalks, unpacking documents, glossary of terms, the different strand maps, as well as professional development series at their June state board meeting. We will know more about the specifics of those standards at that point in terms of key terms. I know there's some things that folks are looking at, and there's been some controversy around those standards, so we want to make sure that our board and public are well informed of what those standards are. I will share with you all that there is a House Bill 324, that speaks specifically to ensuring dignity and non-discrimination in schools. We have a key component listed here that public school units and what they particularly would do as it relates to individuals' race or sex, and in terms of promoting one sex or race over another, talking about not discriminating against or providing adverse treatment against any particular race or sex. So there's some specific guidelines. This is in session at this time, and that's House Bill 324. Again, so we want to make sure that we're being transparent with you all on this, but today all we have received is that the actual standards that have been adopted by the state board. So we'll keep you abreast. I'm going to ask if there's any opportunity for districts to preview these documents before the state board takes action on those. I feel like, there's feedback that needs to be brought from the 115 PSUs, or as our new name, we were LEAs, in the state. So if we have an opportunity to be involved and provide feedback on these documents before the state board takes action, I am going to check on that tomorrow morning. So, and we'll definitely keep you all apprised. We'll share everything that comes to us out with our public as well concerning these standards, so that, we want to make sure that we communicate everything that comes on that. That's all that I have for the board tonight. I do want to tell you all we appreciate all you do for us each and every day, and your support you give to our staff, students, and families here in Bladen County.
And if we do get,
Mr. Atkinson,
Yes, sir.
on those advisory committees, are the board members going to be participating in that?
Yes, we'd like to involve board members as well. Yes, sir.
And another question, when we get our invitations to go to graduation, do we take a guest?
Yes, sir, you can. You'll get a pass instead of a ticket this time, because we want to make sure that we've got the tickets that have been done, 6 tickets per graduate. And we've done that to try to maintain the same number of tickets we've done at traditional graduation, but board members will get a pass for you and for your guests, so that one pass will work for you and your guests. Yes, sir.
Okay. And there was something else I intended to ask you. What was it? Oh, on that House Bill 324, and our school improvement plans, are we going to include some type of equity when we do that?
Yes, sir. That has been something that we know we've got to address with equity and diversity. That's going to be a part of our strategic plan, as well as this, because we know that as we work together, the district as a whole should also model what we expect from schools in the improvement process. So we would align our goals and strategies with those of the state board, those of any of our accrediting bodies, so that we make sure that we're doing that. And the goal of that would be then that the schools would align themselves to a district improvement plan, because we should all be working toward the same goal, the same vision, and that it's important that we do that. I think another key component is we've got to make sure that any data that we use, strategies and timelines, we use SMART goals so that they're measurable. We can hold ourselves accountable. We can see where our growth is being. We can embrace our strengths, see where our challenges are, and be proactive. And a part of that planning process is not just to develop the plan, but that we visit it frequently, we monitor it, we make adjustments as we need to, and that we're using every piece of data that we can to make sure that we're doing what's best for children.
That's all I have.
Yes, sir. I appreciate it.
And if we do have a chance to do our input, please fill out your forms, or it ain't gonna do us a bit of good. I need a motion to adjourn. Come on. Have a motion by Mr. Dennis, second by Mr. Chris. Any discussion? I yield to you, Valerie.
If I could get a quick interview with you, talk about the social studies, new policies, and just whatever you're
I'll
going to.
ask if you would follow up with Ms. Newton tomorrow, and we'll can have a conversation.
So, I mean, can you give me a comment or anything for our 11 o'clock show?
No comment this time. We'll follow up with Ms. Newton, please.
This thing's dated yesterday. This thing was not here yesterday, but it's dated yesterday. Noting the meeting for today has been canceled. Now we know from the video that was taken that Jason was questioned by the gentleman from Channel 3. Jason refused to answer those questions, had no comment. But sometime, again, dated yesterday, sometime after last night's meeting, this notice appeared on the door. I find that odd, and it's been rescheduled, in fact, for the fall of 2021. And yet the purpose of this meeting was to discuss foundation support for the education programs of the Bladen County schools. So now we don't want to discuss those issues through the whole spring and summer. We're going to wait till the fall. That makes it sound to me like it's not, number one, it's not very important. It also sounds, number two, to me like perhaps they're a little intimidated by what happened last night. They don't want to answer potentially any questions about what happened or transpired last night. Plus, I have my own questions regarding their funding records and disclosures, where the money's going, what it's intended to underwrite or support. I think those are legitimate questions as well. It's all part of the same scenario, and I'd like to know. I think there's some other citizens and parents who would like to know too. Again, because this is all part of the same scenario. So we'll see. We'll see where it goes.
How many protesters do you think are here today?
Well, there's about 8 of us.
Okay.
Same crowd that was here last night with the same intent and interest, because we want some questions answered. We're not getting those questions answered. This doesn't surprise me, but I am disappointed, to say the least. I'm disappointed. That speaks volumes about the transparency that we should otherwise be seeing, and we're not. That's poor. That's very poor.
All right. So is there another meeting scheduled yet?
I have not seen it on their website, other than what they note here. It will be rescheduled in the fall of 2021. Well, there's a considerable time between now and then. Is their fundraising not that important that they can push it off for months? They don't want to talk about it? Where's the money going? What's the intent? I don't get it. This doesn't pass the smell. It doesn't pass the smell test. So.
Well, thank you very much.
You're welcome.